Well, hello there. You made it this far into the series, you're an awesome person. Just wanted to say that. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So what was I thinking? Retry. I was thinking Jimmy wouldn't twist his ankle, but he would just rush forward. Swing and take a step to the right. Oh, did we get it finally? Let's see. I took a swing at the ball, but I almost tripped. I had to take another step to stop myself from falling over. The tennis ball flew over the net, kissed the baseline, compressed, and bounced up. Then it was stuck in the wired fence around the court. Yay, match point saved. Rocky was such a sneaky bastard. With Jimmy barely able to move, he was aiming every ball at him. But Jimmy was able to get out of the way almost every time too, even with a twisted ankle. We were coordinating surprisingly well. After a while, Wang Chang was left standing there too. The game had become a singles match between Rocky and me. Maybe Jimmy was lucky charm because we eventually won the game 15-13. What a great partner. I had won my chocolate milk. Hooray. I fell to the ground and my ankle hurt like hell. Fortunately, we still won the point thanks to her. Now our opponents were hitting the ball towards me almost exclusively, but Li Wen was too good, and eventually we won. Now, more importantly, she ran over and high-fived me. I wasn't just daydreaming about this, she really did give me a high five. Her hand felt so warm. I would never forget that moment. Hey, we did it! Oh my god, finally. Was that really the combination that we needed? I don't think there was really any logic to that, I'm afraid. Because the ball's coming to the center back of the court. But we run forward. Like, these directions, when I turned on the cheats, basically didn't help at all. But whatever. We did it. Okay, well, now we can move on to greener pastures. I'm gonna go turn the cheats off. This actually didn't even help anyway. There we go. Okay. Now, who do we want to play as here? I really like the police officer dude that we're playing with. I like his storyline so far. Jimmy's kind of creepy, but I think he comes by it honestly. She's kind of a ditz. This Wen guy, I don't know how I feel about him. And Carlos seems pretty happy-go-lucky, but I have a bad feeling he's gonna run out of money and be in big trouble with like gangs and stuff. That's why him and the police officer are so close. Anyway, let's play with some... Well, we'll see what this guy has in store for us here. Well, I guess we don't have his next quest yet, actually, so... We could play as these two, or as Li Wen. Honestly, I'm kind of exhausted after dealing with their bullshit, so I'm gonna go do these guys' storyline over here. Okay. My sister and kidnapping. Well, that doesn't sound good. Alright. Get some coffee going. Hong Kong was different than what I had imagined. Back home in Mexico, everything was so colorful, but Hong Kong was just gray. Gray streets, gray buildings, gray store signs, and gray homeless people. And then there was me, sitting in the middle of them, looking odd. I never knew that pesos couldn't be exchanged into Hong Kong dollars here. When I woke up, I found a few more coins by my feet. I had to take them. I must survive. None of the homeless people seemed to like me very much. Perhaps because they could only get about half as many coins as I. I had a big sister named Alicia. She was 9 years older than me. We both grew up in the orphanage in Monte Telo. It was really a rural place. You had to travel 4 kilometers to get to the nearest town, Goatepec, just to make a phone call. I couldn't remember anything about my own parents. My big sister was the only one I had in this world. 9 years ago, Alicia had left Mexico to make more money. She used to write me letters every few months. Every time the mailman came, I would be so excited to see if there was an envelope with my name on it. Even though I couldn't read much, Auntie Benita would always make me read them, or always read them to me. Alicia didn't seem to have the easiest time, but she had seen so much of the outside world, and by reading her letters, I felt like I got to see what Alicia had seen as well. I could almost feel like I was right there with her, in a big, new, interesting, and fascinating world that we had never seen before. However, we had stopped hearing from her about a year ago. Uh-oh. Her last letter had come from Hong Kong. So I had asked Uncle Depp to find a tutor for me who would teach me how to read and speak a little of the local language. I had worked so hard to make more money for the trip. I had done all of this just so I could come to Hong Kong, even though I wasn't sure if she was still in this city. Still, even if there was just the tiniest hope, I would never give up. I must find my sister to make sure that she was okay. I had arrived at Pitt Street. Pitt Street had been on the postmark of Alicia's last letter. Maybe someone nearby might have seen her. Before I left, Auntie Benita had given me an old cell phone. I pulled up a picture of Alicia on the phone. I held up the phone asking people door to door if they had seen my sister. I couldn't tell if they simply couldn't understand me. They would wave their hands at me every time before I had barely spoken. About halfway through the street, I found myself behind a huge crowd of people. Thick, dark smoke was coming out of the building nearby. People were shoving and running out of it. More and more people started to gather by the street, many of them even taking pictures with their phones. The fire truck finally arrived. My cell phone suddenly rang. My cell phone fell to the ground. My cell phone was vibrating on the ground, then it fell through the storm drain. No! The sewer water was flowing rapidly in the drain. I held onto the drain and tried my best to look down. Maybe the phone was stuck somewhere. I looked for a long time and even tried to reach it with my hand, but I couldn't get it. I was so tired, disappointed, and desperate I couldn't pretend anymore, and I fell to the ground feeling like shit. That cell phone was the most valuable thing I had. It had the only picture of my sister on it. Lord, please help me. I really didn't know if I could ever find my big sister without it. Carlos. Okay. Alright. The office wing of Criminal Investigation Unit 4 looked like a small warehouse that hadn't been used in forever. It was crowded and messy in the first place. Then, almost every desk had stacks of files that were at least 20 centimeters tall, as well as all kinds of evidence and other random items. I stood up straight and gave a salute. Chang Yong Min, reporting for duty at Unit 4. Oh god, is that us? Oh boy. There were only 2 other persons there beside me. One of them was wiping down his rifle. He looked at me with a strange, examining look on his face. The other one had dark circles around his eyes, which made him look like he hadn't slept for days. He was looking over some files. Judging from his seat, this must be the infamous Lieutenant of Unit 4, Kang Byakya. Lieutenant Kang gave me a glance with a half-smoked cigarette in his mouth. Then he mumbled, "You. Over there." I followed the direction of his look and saw a desk that he seemed to be referring to. Many old bags from McRonald's were stacked on top of it, all filled with leftovers and trash. It was also directly opposite the bathroom facing it. It was okay, as long as I had somewhere to sit. I was about to ask Lieutenant Kang what I should do next when the phone rang on his desk. He put down the phone and announced to us that there was a gang-related hostage situation 2 blocks away from here. I never thought my opportunity to defend justice would arrive so soon. Lieutenant Kang put out his cigarette and an ashtray and stood up. I followed him. He grabbed his coat and asked, "Hey, new guy, have you got your gun?" "My gun? No, not yet." "Then where do you think you're going? Stay by the phone, take notes. If anything comes up, don't speak too much." I can still help without a gun. As a policeman, I swore to defend justice, to prevent all offenses against people and property. Justice? Ha ha ha. Lieutenant Kang burst into laughter before I could finish my sentence. "You think justice is just gonna block a bullet from hitting you? Well, kid, I've seen plenty of idiots like you. In my unit, there's only one rule you need to remember at all times, which is to follow the orders." Eh? That wasn't what I meant at all. I was just trying to help. First day on the job, and I was already having such a misunderstanding with my lieutenant. But before I could explain myself, Lieutenant Kang continued, "If you have a problem with staying by the phone, you could just go home and don't bother coming back tomorrow either. I'll let the old man know." After they left, I sat down in my seat opposite the bathroom. As my nose was catching a glimpse of the faint, stinky smell, I let out a defeated sigh. When I had been in the police academy, people would always have an understanding smile on their face whenever Unit 4 was brought up. Everyone had heard all kinds of rumors about this place. Lieutenant Kang was the infamous dictator of the Criminal Investigation Department. Everyone must follow his orders without questions. He had a peculiar personality, and he was extremely rough, even cruel with the criminals. Besides, Lieutenant Kang was a lot younger than the other unit's lieutenants. Therefore, many people speculated that Lieutenant Kang had only gotten his position because of nepotism. As a result, no rookies ever wanted to join Unit 4. As for the unit that everyone dreamt about getting into, that would have to be Unit 1. Unit 1 had over 30 officers, and it was widely considered to be the best unit in the department. Yet, here I was assigned to Unit 4. I was sulking when the phone rang again. There was another hostage case in Byop-dong. Since no one in Unit 4 was available, I suppose this was my time to shine. I hurried to the scene in 10 minutes. It was a 10-story apartment building. I could vaguely see two people on the ledge of the rooftop. People told me that they were a married couple. The husband had borrowed too much money from loan sharks and couldn't pay them back. That was why he wanted to jump off the building, and he had forced his wife up there with him. Well, let's see how I, Chang Yong-min, would brilliantly solve this crisis. One of his feet was already dangling off the ledge. He was holding a knife against the frightened wife's neck. I walked over there. "Stop! I'm telling you to stop!" He got riled up and his right foot missed the ledge. He fell off the edge and dragged his wife with him. "Wait, no!" Before I even had a chance to talk him down, both of them disappeared out of my sight. It was a terrible scene at the bottom of the building. Even though I was 10 floors above the ground, I felt that I could still smell the blood. It almost made me sick. I stood there in shock. For the first time, I finally recognized what it felt like to be a real policeman. Oh God, what the hell had I done? Could I be any more stupid? Please, Buddha, please let me have another chance, please. Chang Yong-min. Alright, buddy. We'll try to give you another chance here. And he could answer it. Or this guy's cell phone could fall to the ground and not ring. I feel like we want it to ring though. I think this is the one. We'll try it out, and it's probably going to be the wrong one. "Stop! I'm telling you to stop!" He got riled up, and his right foot missed the ledge. Fuck. He fell over the ledge and dragged his wife with him. "Wait, no!" Before I even had a chance to talk him down, both of them disappeared out of my sight. Fortunately, the fire department had set up a cushion below. Oh, Jesus. You moron, do you know what a big of a mess you made? That case was not even under our jurisdiction. Back at the station, Lieutenant Kang was outraged. She was yelling at me so loudly that the entire building could hear him. The hospital later called and informed us that the couple was okay. However, the wife had been 4 months pregnant and they couldn't save the baby. I was suspended due to the serious consequences caused by my reckless, unauthorized actions. Bother. It was total chaos in front of the burning building. I put my cell phone back in my pocket and left the crowd. I walked to the next street asking the pedestrians about Alicia. Okay, so that... we got a rank A for him. Let's try this one. Let's see what it says. Who the hell would be calling me at this godforsaken moment? I turned around and answered the phone quietly. It was from the station. They told me something important had happened to the unit, and I must get back as soon as possible and await further instructions. I hung up the phone and turned around only to realize that the couple had disappeared from the ledge. Fortunately, the fire department had set up a cushion below. Oh, we're in trouble again? Back at the station, Lieutenant Kang was outraged, yeah. However, the wife it couldn't save the baby. Damn, is that I think that's the same ending. She summoned a lot of people to help put out the fire. He picked up my phone with his left hand and saw my sister's picture. Then he asked me in English what my relationship with her was. There was no expression on his face the entire time. After hearing my explanation, he tossed the phone back to me. Then he said, "Come back here tomorrow." "Do you know my sister?" I walked up to him in excitement, but a huge man in a black suit stopped me. The man in the trench coat looked like he wasn't going to answer any of my questions anymore, and turned his attention back to his men and the fire. The suit guy seemed like he was twice my size. He looked down on me and I could see a deep scar on his face. Fine, I would come back tomorrow. Still, I never thought I would find a clue about Alicia just like this. The Lord must be blessing us. Sister, we would soon meet again. I just knew it. I can't seem to get this to work no matter how hard I try. Am I too stupid? It's not your fault. Something seems to be tied up over there with Kang Bek Ya. Once you solve the problem over there, it might impact this one too. Huh? Is that a thing too? Occasionally we might not be able to solve the current case because something happened somewhere else. Whenever this occurs, you'll see orange text in the letters. The appearance of orange text typically means that you will need to consult another letter to handle the current one. So basically, if I see orange text in a letter, I should go check some other letters first, right? Correct. Sometimes you may need to handle the other letters first. Other times, it might just mean that you need to look for clues in the other letters. Either case, it really depends on the letters, and you'll have to use your own judgment. This doesn't happen too often, but if you do encounter them, make sure you take advantage of the hints in the letters to help you. Got it. I'll go read the letter from Kang Bek Ya first then. You might have already noticed that every time you open a letter you can see a number of small colored squares here. Oh yes, what are those? The small squares can be one of three colors, yellow, pink, and gray. Some of them are solid, while some of them are empty. These squares represent all the possible endings for the events described in a specific order. The solid ones stand for the endings that you have discovered, while the empty ones are the endings that you have yet to reach. Of the solid squares, the yellow one marks the selected ending that you have chosen at the moment, which means that the yellow square could only be solid and never empty. The solid pink squares, on the other hand, represent the endings that you have discovered but are not selecting at the moment. The pink empty squares are the endings you have not discovered yet. All these squares are strictly arranged in order, which could be helpful reference when you are making decisions. What about these gray squares? Gray squares mean either a solid or empty, but they are less common. Sometimes the development of certain events may be impacted by other people and things. For instance, this incident with Chang Gyong-min was affected by the incident on Kang Baek-ya's side. That's why there's still a gray square here. A gray square means that under current conditions, the probability of this potential ending happening is 0, or in layman's terms, it cannot happen. Once we solve the related pending problem, the square will no longer be gray, meaning that it is now possible for us to reach this ending. Meanwhile, a previous ending that we have reached will now turn gray instead. Confused. I'm confused too. I understand it is very confusing when I explain it to you like this. However, I believe once you are done with Chang Gyong-min's story, you'll figure out how it works. Got it. I'll give it a shot. I guess we'll go see what's going on here. There we go. This is Alicia. I'm 18 years old. I was born and raised in Mexico. I have a younger brother named Carlos who is 9 years younger than me. He is the only family I have left. We're both orphans. The orphanage was so poor they couldn't afford to send us to school. I'd come out to make some money so I could keep my brother in school. If I could make enough money, maybe we would eventually move out of the orphanage and start a new life, just the two of us. I'd heard that America was a place full of chances for everyone. That was where I should go then. A travel agency inside Mexico City had told me that crossing the desert, stowing away on a train, or getting across the Rio Bravo were all very risky and dangerous. Therefore, they had established a route via the ocean. They thought it would be slightly more expensive. It was guaranteed to be safe, and everyone who had taken this route had got into America. I spent the money I had saved for months and bought myself a ship ticket. There were several other young girls with me on the ship. We were locked inside a small room and were not allowed to go out. At first, we thought it was just so that people wouldn't find us being smuggled across the border. But it hadn't taken so long. We must have arrived by now. Half a month had passed. We were still at sea. We were finally certain that we had been conned. About a month, the ship finally arrived at port. We were then moved to a building near the port where the guards watched us. Where were we now? Which country was this? Were we going to be sold as slaves or prostitutes? I crouched in the corner with my mind running wild. Every once in a while, a guard would come in and take a sobbing girl out. There were fewer and fewer people left in the room. Finally, there was only me and another girl named Julie left. Julie suddenly stood up and tried to hit the guard at the door facing us. She was holding a rock in her hand, but she didn't succeed. The rock fell to the ground and her arm was grabbed so tightly by the guard that it looked like it was about to snap. She looked at me with a pleading look in her eyes. I really wanted to help her. I didn't want to be sold either. I was too scared. The guard had a gun. Everyone outside had a gun. Julie lowered her head. When she lifted it back up, the guard was screaming like a pig being slaughtered. Half of his missing ear was in Julie's mouth. Then I heard a few gunshots along with a loud cursing. Julie fell down and stopped moving. Her eyes were open wide as if she had just come out of a nightmare. The injured guard slammed the door angrily with one hand, covering his ear. Soon another person came in. This one seemed to be nicer. He had half a bottle of beer with him. He sat down at the door, looked at me, and looked at Julie, who was lying in her own blood. He didn't seem to care about what had happened at all. An hour later, his bottle was empty, and he had fallen asleep in the chair. It was pretty late. Maybe I wouldn't be taken away until tomorrow. I looked at Julie again and remembered that she had told me, there, on the ocean, I want to become a singer in America. I want to be a star. She wasn't bragging. She had a really beautiful voice. She had also said, I know if I do my best, my dream will come true. I would never forget the look on her face when she said it. Her eyes had been filled with hope and anticipation for the future. I was very jealous of how lively and how full of joy Julie was. The guard turned a little in the chair, and his gun dropped from his waist, sliding towards my feet. Was it a hint from the Lord? I reached for the gun, but I jerked my hand back like I had been shocked when I touched it. No. No! I couldn't. What if I ended up like Julie? I held the cross tight in front of my chest. I started praying. "O Heavenly Father," Jesus said, "ask and you shall receive. We trust that you know our true needs are. You recognize what our true feelings are. You understand what situations we're in. Now we ask, or shall ask, for what our hearts truly desires. O God, give heed to my prayer. Show us your mercy. Amen." 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. 30 minutes passed. The guard began snoring. The gun was right next to my hand. Maybe this really had been a hint from the Lord. I finally picked up the gun in hesitation. It felt so heavy in my hand. "Mom, Dad, please bless me. Carlos, please bless me. Heavenly Father, please bless me." I pushed the door open. There was no one in the hallway outside. I was so quiet, the only thing I could hear was my own heart beating wildly in my chest. The building had only one floor. After taking one turn, I could see the main gate. There were several guards at the gate too. All of them had guns. There was a black man and 2 Asians, and the rest all had pale skin. How could I get out? With just one handgun. I checked the gun in my hand once again. There were no bullets in the gun. There were no bullets? I collapsed on the floor. I was not feeling afraid anymore. I just felt utter desperation. Soon the guards noticed me and dragged me back into the room. This time they cuffed my feet so that I wouldn't be able to escape again. Julie's body was still lying there. Flies began hovering around her face, but they didn't seem to have any intention to clean up the scene. Would I end up like Julie? Was this my final destiny? Heavenly Father, please answer me. Alicia. Whoa. So I guess we know what happened to Alicia. It's pretty brutal. Let's read the next letter here. Kang Bak Ya. Oh, is this the dickhead? My name is Kang Bak Ya. I'm a cop. I had been doing this for 7 years. Maybe 8? I can't really remember. Today the old man assigned me another newbie to my unit. I think we know who that is. He had always wanted my unit to become as big as Unit 1. Why did I need so many people? Detective work wasn't like street fighting. I had a headache whenever I pictured the image of so many people in the unit passing their lunches over their heads during lunch break. And this newbie today was full of that kinda fighting for justice crap. Lunatic. Well, screw it, whatever. I was just gonna wait for a few days and then I would find an excuse to send him over to Unit 1. Everyone would be happy then. We were always very busy. The files for the open cases had been stacking up like small hills. Among all the police precincts in the entire Republic of Korea, Busan might be one of the top 5 busiest precincts thanks to the violent gangs in this area. The Musan gang and the Bangmang gang. So the Musan is the biggest violent gang in the Busan region. It mostly deals with drugs and arms trafficking. There are 4 groups within the gang: the Taoseng group, the Yusong group, Gonggamun group, and the Inwu group. Their boss's most famous saying was, "As long as you're still breathing, you gotta do what you want to do." And the Bangmang group, the only other major gang that is able to rival the Musan, its business encompasses prostitution, entertainment, and gambling. Unlike the Musan gang, the Bangmang gang is less violent prone and put more emphasis on intelligence. One of their boss's most famous sayings is, "As long as it pays, you gotta do what you gotta do." So I bet it's the Bangmang gang then that has kidnapped Alicia. These 2 gangs never made our lives easy. Recently, the old boss of the Musan gang has been severely ill. His underlings were all itching to become the successor. There are at least a dozen people killed in the infighting every day. If I kept saving up my vacation days like this, I would probably have enough time to plan for my next trip to be on the moon. case today was an annoying one too. It was a hostage case, but the kidnapper and the hostages belonged to the same gang. It was a so-called family matter. What was worse was that the kidnapper was someone quite important in the Musun gang. The old man had always told us to keep things easy as to avoid direct conflict with the gangs. He told me today multiple times to bring the kidnapper in without hurting anyone. Without hurting anyone? Pfft, if he had really wanted that, he would not have assigned this case to me. I was crawling in the narrow air vent duct. I could hear breathing sounds all around me, both loud and quiet, as well as the sound of fans. The air smelled disgusting. I pulled my collar loose a little bit. Fuck this. I'd rather climb up from the outside of the building with my bare hands than suffocate inside this goddamn tube. Why couldn't I just walk it in from the door and pop 2 shots in his head? I'd finally arrived at the top of the room. The voices coming from below sounded very weird through the vent. You stay there and don't fucking move. All of you, don't move. The target was sitting on a bench, or was sitting on a couch at the other end of the room. He kept waving the gun in his hand around and pointed it at the other one's heads every once in a while. Those poor bastards were all his underlings. None of them even dared to look up. I had seen lots of junkies that would get so high that they wouldn't even recognize their own mother. Still, the scene right below me was so unusually funny that I almost chuckled. The area below the vent in my view of the bay... The area below the vent was right in the view of the bay window. Anyone could easily see inside the room from across the street through the window. My task today was to lure him over. As I got closer to the vent, trying to observe the situation more closely, clang. A loud noise came from somewhere. Don't move, I heard a man's voice. A bullet flew out without me seeing it. The nails fastening the vent register had been shattered by the bullet, and it bounced off a few meters away into a corner. After a tumble and a half, I fell and smashed into the white carpet along with the vent register. 5 meters away, the junkie was holding his gun with a shocked expression on his face, and smoke was still coming out of the dark, shaking barrel of the gun. Near my shoulder, my shirt had turned from its original red into another kind of red, and the colored patch kept getting larger. "You've let yourself get hurt again, idiot." A voice that I couldn't be more familiar with appeared in my head once again, while also sounding like it was coming from out of this world. Oh crap. I'd come back to this room again. The room was extremely dark. There was no furniture inside except for a light bulb hanging from the center of the ceiling. A slightly shorter person walked out from a dark corridor reluctantly. His hair was all messed up and his eyes didn't even look alive. As soon as he pushed me away from underneath the light, a mysterious force dragged me into the corner and I was swallowed by darkness. Whenever I was in danger, this guy would come out against my will. But at a moment like this, well, shit. What a shitty day. Whoever stood under the light would have control of my body. Or the body. From this moment on, I was no longer in... Well, same thing. I managed to dodge all of the flying bullets coming towards me with extreme agility and inhuman postures. When I got back on my feet, I somehow had a gun in my hand. The 13 9mm bullets in the magazine were fired like a machine gun. Each one of them went through his head. Broken eyeballs splashed all over the barely recognizable face of the junkie. Everything was a terrible mess. The junkie had collapsed to the floor like a pile of mud, but now the gun was aimed at his henchmen that were still tied up. Things were taking an ugly turn. 1 bullet, 1 life, no waste. But I hesitated when the gun pointed at the muscular guy with a tattooed head. The muscular guy suddenly swept me at my ankle with his leg. I lost my balance, knocked my head on a short table, and passed out. When I woke up, I was laying in a hospital with tubes coming out all over my body. Ming Jun was sitting next to me, sound asleep. 8 deaths. As per usual, I had to write 1,000 words for each death in the report, which meant I needed to write 8,000 words. Moreover, the target this time was not just a regular punk. His father was the leader of the Gangmung group with the Musun gang, Choi Yo-han. His father was the leader of the Gongwon group. That would mean another 4,000 words at least. Gosh, my head hurts so bad. Sweet Jesus, give me a break, please. Wow, it was almost like I was watching an action movie. If only I had some popcorn. You're a dick. Don't ruin this solo mood by suddenly thinking about popcorn. Okay, sorry, there is no popcorn here, but we do have osmanthus cakes. Oh, that's great too. I'm not very picky. So, if we want to eat cakes while watching a movie, oh no, I mean while working, is there any way I could do it hands-free? These letters are not like the regular letters that I can just read in front of me. I have to follow the thoughts of the writer by confirming it sentence by sentence. Stupid lazy girl. Although there is indeed a way. If you want to free your hands to eat, do something else, all you need to do is hit A. That would have been so handy. Except I'm reading this out loud and I probably wouldn't be able to keep up with it. Then the letters will enter autoplay mode. Furthermore, if you want to read it faster while you're not eating, you can activate the skip text option in the options. Afterwards, every click will reveal an entire line of text immediately. Like it is right now, basically. All of these tips have been archived in the help menu, which will periodically be updated as we go along too. If you run into any questions, don't forget to check the information there. Got it. So we have to change this here in order to continue with the other storyline, I guess. So let's start. It's only... oh shit. Okay, so what happens here? So there's no bullets in the gun, which means that the shooty shoot's not happening. But here, she needs bullets, but somebody's got to get discovered. I think he's got to get discovered, but there's no bullets in the guy's gun. But she needs bullets, so let's try this one. The nails fastening the vent register have been shattered. Okay. After a tumble and a half, he falls. 5 meters away, the junkie was pointing a gun at me. He looked really scared and his hand was shaking. Don't you dare move. This was serious. I dropped my gun and held my hands behind my head. As I did it, I did as he said and sat with the other hostages. Shit. I was going to owe Unit 3 another big favor. A bullet that had come from the door hit me in the stomach. What? I slowly collapsed to the ground with my back against the wall. I could feel the warmth slowly leaving my body. The last thing I saw was some people arguing at the door. They were all strangers. Tears rolled down my face. It was true what they say, that people you wanted to see the most in your last moments would be your own family. Really? This is what happened before, basically. What happens if I do this? The nails fastening the vent register have been shattered. Okay. He falls. Okay, what happens now? Okay, he did get shot. Does he go into crazy mode? Yeah. Wait. Okay, he's just going in crazy mode again. I noticed that when I was still in the vent, but this idiot, although hand-to-hand combat would only mean one thing, my opponent was going to suffer even more. Oh fuck, for fuck's sakes. So I lost control of my body. I'd been so exhausted. Skipping vision, I glanced Ming Jung waiting for me for a chance for his best shot from the roof of the building across the street. Could see everything in the room, scoping with sniper rifle. I punched the junkie in the nose. His nose was broken into an asymmetric shape and the blood was coming out of both his nostrils. However, the junkie seemed to be more lucid after the punch. He looked outside the window, following the direction of my eyes. A clear view of the window, a perfect spot for a sniper. However, I didn't know anything about today's plan. The junkie saw an opening, suddenly grabbed my body and quickly turned around and forced my back towards the window. The bullet shattered the glass, and in the next instant it pierced through my chest as well. The strong force flipped me over and destroyed my lungs. I couldn't breathe anymore. I stood helplessly in the corner of the dark room. My sight was fading. Eventually I lost all connection to the world. Damn it! I tried to shoot one of the Asian men. The trigger felt so heavy and the recoil almost knocked the gun out of my hand. Fortunately, I didn't hit anyone. Instead, I had exposed myself. I had to keep shooting, but I used up the 6 bullets quickly. I still didn't hit anyone. Their firepower was way stronger. They aimed their shots at my feet. I had to keep crawling back. No. How would I possibly win a shootout? Okay. We do this one? I don't know. What happens here? I accidentally knocked down a ladder that had been put against the wall. The guard in the room woke up. He stumbled into the hallway, still quite a bit sleepy. I suddenly had an idea. Hands up, don't make a sound or I'll shoot. I pointed the gun at his head. He held his hands up high and began sweating. Walk to the gate slowly. Do not speak to them. Do not lower your hands. Do not turn around. I pressed the gun up against the back of his head and we walked slowly towards the gate. My palms were completely wet with sweat. I only knew that I was more nervous than he. When we were only a few hundred meters away from the port, I smashed his head with a gun as hard as I could and knocked him out. And then I ran away as fast as possible. I didn't dare look back. There were still plenty of people on the street. Many stores were still open, even in the middle of the night. People were shooting me strange looks when I ran past them. They all seemed to be Asians, but I didn't dare stop and talk to them. Julie had been right about one thing. Dreams did come true when you did your best. I didn't know how long I had to run, but I couldn't even take one more step. I collapsed into a bunch of paper boxes stacked at the corner of an alley. Okay. The bullet hit the vent register and ricocheted. Then it happened to hit my shoulder. What a wonderful day for me. Blood was streaming down my arm and dripping onto the vent. Then it dropped into the carpet of the room below. Wait, what is this? The target's steps were getting closer. Then he stopped. I didn't need to look. The bastard must be standing right beneath the vent. Soon he would lift his head up and look and notice me. There was a sound of a window glass shattering. Then it was the sound of flesh being destroyed. Mission complete. Everything went as planned. Well, almost. I stood next to the junkie's body, which was missing half of his head. Oh shit. He was supposed to just lose a leg or something. This was a little different from what the old man had demanded. Min Jung had just rushed over from the building across the street. He dropped to his knees with a thud as soon as he saw me. I'm sorry, Lieutenant. It was my mistake. I missed. It looked like he hadn't forgotten the last time when he did not follow the plan exactly and had to write a 200,000 word report. If apologizing was good enough, what would we need the cops for then? I checked the junkie's pocket. There was only 50,000 won and a half packet of Marlboros. I stuffed the monkey into Min Jin's pocket and lit a cigarette for myself. Well, Choi Do Sung, which was the name of the junkie, was just trash in this society and he deserved to die. After witnessing such a bloody ending, maybe his loser buddies would learn to behave a little too. Yeah, maybe it wasn't so bad after all. I touched Min Jin's head. Don't worry about it. Well done. Oh good, we got it. Phew. Nice. You've solved Kang Baekya's problem, but don't forget about Chang Yong Min's letter from earlier. Oh right, It almost slipped my mind. Ugh. So now we can go back and do Chang Young Min's stuff, I guess. But I think I'll save that for the next episode. So that's all the time I have today, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't be afraid to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.